there are many tragedies that happen in the Mahabharat. Abhimanyu's death at the hand of the Kauravas in the Chakravyuh was one of them, right? So the Kauravas created a very sticky web, which essentially was that you can go in, you're sucked into the trap because you're like really attracted to something which is in the middle of the Chakravyuh. You could kill somebody. But can we learn something from this Chakravyuh, especially for product-led growth, for scaling a product? Let's go and find out.
How can Abhimanyu's Chakravyuh tragedy help you lead to product-led growth?
Now, don't kill me, but I'm now going to talk in favor of the Kauravas and what they did. You're sucked into the trap in such a way that you're giving away of yourself as you're getting in, because you're fighting all the way through. So by the time you reach there, you're defenseless. You've kind of given everything to the enemy, and the enemy is completely surrounded you, and you have no way in which you can get out, right? So if I look at the way in which fantastic brands like Amazon or Apple, or they've created these Chakravyuhs, they've created these wonderful sticky webs, wherein what is happening as a customer is that I'm really, really getting attracted to engaging with this, and I am kind of creating a story in my own head. Right, every single time I'm getting inside this, connecting with this wonderful brand, I'm co-creating the story of meaning. So I know that I am like, this Apple is amazing, the design is amazing, this is amazing. So instead of the brand only trying to convince me, I am also convincing myself along with the brand as I get in deeper and deeper. So that is your Chakravyuh. Those are your brands, and so the Kaurava is the brand in this case. What is really happening is a step-by-step sucking in of the customer.
So, specific to today's landscape, if we look at the industry that's going to be prevalent tomorrow, which is the LLMs as an industry, which includes your players like OpenAI or Anthropic and Perplexity, etc. How are LLMs, making you as a fly trapped into their honeycomb?
No, it's a great way to understand this Chakravyuh really well and make it absolutely practical, right? So if you look at ChatGPT, whenever you're contributing some information to ChatGPT so that ChatGPT helps you more with its wisdom, what you're doing is that you're investing all of that information into ChatGPT. So this means that ChatGPT is going to be able to serve you better and better, but then you will find it more and more difficult to go to a Claude or to go to a Gemini, because you have already invested a lot of meaning and a lot of information to a particular LLM.
Let's go a little bit deeper into this. What exactly have LLMs done that have made them like a Kaurava when it comes to Mahabharat?
So what LLMs have done is that they start off pretty dumb, right? They say, okay, how can we help you? And they're very sweet and polite and stuff like that. And they are basically allowing you to give as much context. And now we are actually teaching our engineers and our students and everybody to give as much context, so that your prompt has to be fantastic. Your prompt has to be really well set. So what is happening is that you're giving as much context to the LLM so that the LLM can answer your question really, really well. Now, what happens is that the more information you are giving to that particular LLM, you're going to contribute a lot of the sort of moat that the LLM is building around itself. Because if I look at it at its heart, the LLM is kind of divided. Each LLM is divided because of the database that it's using, okay, the initial database that it's using, and the database that it's garnering from its users. So the initial database for ChatGPT might be something, Reddit or whatever it may be, and the initial database for Grok might be X. But the fact is that will serve only for a small purpose. The secondary database that it's getting is from human interaction. So your LLM has to kind of make it very tempting for you to contribute that, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, and it's also for the developers and the builders who are building on top of, say, OpenAI for their own businesses. We've seen this in the past, where you saw games like Farmville and Candy Crush go very big by using Facebook as the medium, right? And then what happened was Facebook monetized the APIs. Facebook made a very big paywall and closed down all of the APIs, and all of these companies, the small, now what we see as the agentic AI companies, these small studios, they had to go back to the drawing board and build their maybe say through Unity or whatever, build their own systems to bring out the games. And they got honey trapped into this Chakravyuh created by the Mank nations, right?
Yes.
The same thing was done by Amazon, where it became a seller distribution platform, and then it brought its own Amazon brands, and the brands, now the small sellers, they had to compete with the Amazon brands by either lowering down their commissions or betting high on the sponsored ads to just stay on that platform. By then it was way too late to get out of that Chakravyuh. And the same thing that OpenAI is doing right now, like in the next, I think, less than 1 or 2 years max to max, OpenAI is going to start its own search engine to compete with Google. Right now there are so many agentic AI companies building on top of OpenAI or Anthropic systems, and the moment OpenAI or Claude it starts paywalling its APIs or its consoles, these agentic AI companies
The
are going to
Chakravyuh
pay.
is sucked. Yes.
Exactly, they're stuck. There is no way out.
Yeah, no, in fact, if you see one sneaky thing that I think ChatGPT has done of late is that when you ask ChatGPT a question, I may be getting the LLM wrong, it just says searching. Now, that is such a subtle thing, right? Because when it says searching, it is literally telling you this is your search now, not Google. This is your search. What is happening really is with even with LLMs, if you leave their initial database out, it's a commodity, right? And and DeepSeek proved that it can be very easily commoditized. So now, if it is a commodity, the only meaning it can have is the meaning that you give it, and that is the problem with Abhimanyus. All the Abhimanyus who are going in and saying, "Oh, I use ChatGPT." Oh, okay, that's your problem then.
So if you were to help Abhimanyu win, get out of that Chakravyuh, what would you do to break that Chakravyuh?
So let's qualify this. The modern day Abhimanyu who's getting sucked into LLMs, I'm not trying to replace Lord Krishna or Arjuna or any one of those stalwarts. The fact is that if I have to kind of educate a young person who's like only using chat gpt, what happens with using LLMs is that it is reducing your cognitive cycles, right? So it is making you lazy as we speak, like Google Maps is helping us become lazy in hunting for directions. So the first thing you have to do is figure out a very strategic question: which LLM do I use what for? So if I look at chat gpt, maybe it can help you become a better professional, but maybe Gemini can be for your content, maybe Claude can be if you're doing something academic or research oriented and stuff like that. So use it as horses for courses rather than dump all your information onto one LLM, because then that is the way in which you can break the Chakravyuh, by making all these LLMs fight with each other and making sure that your personas are actually different on each LLM.
Right. Continuing with your point, right? I have three strategies in my mind that say someone can use to help an Abhimanyu. So from your first point, what Abhimanyu needed was multi-entry or exit points,
Correct.
right? So you as somebody helping Abhimanyu, you need consolidation tools. Maybe use tools like N8N or Xavier or Make, that connect these multiple AI providers that you can, so that you can get the best out of all of these worlds to bring out what you want to do without being dependent on just one AI system. The second thing that you can do is maybe an multi-door kind of a strategy, right? Use open systems. For example, Figma was always an open source system. Blender is still completely free. All of these, even though the paywalling has happened, it hasn't really disrupted the designer's work. Some of the features might be a bit of a challenge, but it's open. It's not like an Adobe,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that open source systems is a way to go until you know how a company is going to paywall its open API systems, right? And then every morning, at least I would say every Monday morning, go and do a Chakravyuh audit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
See how much dependent you are on a single AI tool. That should be able to tell you how are your predictions or your forecasts for the next 5 years, on top of which you are planning all of your investments or your company's growth or the new hirings and etc. Is that really going to stand in place? Now tomorrow, for example, today your turnover is $10 million, right? Tomorrow, if OpenAI comes and says that I'm going to take a 30% commission and you are left with $7 million, as an individual, $7 million is a huge amount for me. It's fine, but you understand, on that turnover of $3 million, perhaps there were 100 employees whose livelihood is depending, or perhaps it was my 5 years of investment strategy riding upon those $3 million that suddenly has to go to OpenAI because I was so dependent on OpenAI.
And what tends to happen with modern day Abhimanyus is that they hear half-baked strategies,
Yeah.
rather tactics, and they start using chat gpt and whatever as tactical stuff without really understanding what will happen to them 5 years later when they've invested so much of stuff within one LLM.
Yeah. We've stopped building companies. We are just running on whatever trend is riding on now, and there's just building a startup on top of it. Building a company takes a lot more maturity.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Now, if you had to go to your office on Monday morning and tell your CEO what you've learned from this video, how would you explain it to him? The review strategy.
Boss, if you want to be a Kaurav, make sure that you're a smart Kaurav, and ensure that we develop a really sticky trap for getting our customers in, because in a world which is so commoditized, we are going to find it more and more difficult for people to connect with us and become loyal to us. So drop your old loyalty programs, drop your typical tricks of doing things, understand human psychology, understand how co-creating a story and co-creating meaning with a story depends upon the customer as well. Invite the customer to create a story, invite the customer to paint your fence like Tom Sawyer did, right? Sorry, that's another story for another day, but that is what we will do.
Yeah, or if you're a challenger brand, then maybe you need to tell your CEO how to be an Arjun and break that Chakravyuh in the first place. And just 5 brothers with a smaller army than the Kauravs, bringing through maybe your consolidation tools, or through several multi-door strategies or whatever, winning the game so that you're not dependent on the Kauravs for your Indraprasth.
And if I have to tell my boss on how to use ChatGPT, because my boss will be using ChatGPTs, I would say, boss, don't use ChatGPT alone. Please use these other tools for specific purposes. And your boss would be smart enough to understand which purposes he would use which LLM for.